New today in a confusing new social media post, President Trump appears to be comparing himself to former President Obama. On Saturday, Trump posted these side-by-side photos of him and his predecessor when they were young. This comes just days after Obama criticized Trump for spending too much time talking about him instead of focusing on the major issues affecting this country.
Look, you got to ask him what it is that
the obsession.
The obsession.
I know what it is.
I obviously, have a room in his head.
Rent free. You do everything with grace.
A suite. The idea that I'd be worrying about
came before
somebody who came before and me trying to measure, like what's he done today? It shows me somebody who's not focused on the American people and the job they're supposed to do.
Let's bring in my best weekend friend, Reverend Al Sharpton, president of the National Action Network and host of MS Now's Politics Nation. I love the fact that Obama was laughing there because it's just, the whole thing is just nuts, the suite that he seems to occupy. What are your thoughts about that and why Obama is even addressing it? Because he usually stays above the fray.
Well, my thoughts are that President Trump cannot get over the fact that he had to succeed a man that clearly had more ability, background, a sense of presidential...
More presidential, exactly.
Sense of presidential behavior, and could handle pressure in a calm way that he can, and was better educated, better background in terms of he coming from nothing and achieving something, and he's black. And this, all of the things that Trump has tried to represent in life, and I've fought with him for years, Trump, when he was a private citizen, Obama has proven to be wrong, the things that he stood for, that he tried to play to the American public and the business community here one way. Obama proves that with some effort and with doors open, people can achieve something. So everything Trump really has built his life around as a businessman and then as a political figure, Obama has proven to be wrong. So that he just can't live with that. And I think the reason President Obama addressed it, he was, the question was raised about it. He just opened his library, and I was there. He doesn't even talk about Trump in private. I've been around President Obama for the last several years on many occasions, even social occasions sometimes. I've never heard him say anything about Trump. But Trump must find a way to attack Obama. I mean, if there is a glee club, if it's a glee club contest and one choir wins over another, he'll mention Obama. I mean, there's some obsession there, and I think it's deeply rooted from him growing up in Jamaica Estates all the way to now. He never got over an insecurity, and Obama brings that out of him.
Despite being president of the United States and duly elected 2 times, just like Obama. Well, let's talk about, speaking of elections, the Democrats and the Democratic Socialists here in New York City, which enjoyed major wins. Look at these 3, all 3 of them were backed by Mayor Mamdani. They won their primary elections, barring any other political surprises. In fact, they will likely win in November, right? They're going to join the 120th Congress in January. Does this give you a sense, an idea of where the party is going? I mean, you have to wonder, is this just a New York City phenomenon? New York City may have a different makeup than the majority of the rest of the country, or at least those places between the coasts. Or do you think this is something that will fly nationwide?
I think it is indicative of a feeling of a lot of voters that they want to see some change in terms of what is to be the issues. Affordability is a concern. The whole international forays, being too close to one side as opposed to another when we're looking at obvious atrocities. And I think that the Democratic Socialist DSA has been able to speak to issues that challenges the party that they must address. But I don't think that it is the earthquake that everyone says, because there are people, even in New York, that won. The Assembly candidate in the same district that the DSA congressional candidate won, he kept his seat. So I think that it is a wake-up call. It is not a uniform dismissal. And I think that it is good for the party because there needs to find some balance between those that are saying, remember how average Americans are living, remember working class people, and there must be this balance. And I think that leaders of the party, like Hakeem Jeffries, will seek to try to find that balance. Sometimes it's not sometimes it's the antithesis and the thesis that finds the synthesis.
Okay.